Well, welcome back to probably, I think, our last episode of 2025. I can't believe we've been doing this for what, over 2 years now, Kerry? It is crazy. But we have, I think we're going to end this year with a bang. As you all know, Kerry and I met through the Darley Essay Contest, and they've ran it for 4 years in a row now. And today we are fortunate to have the 2025 winner, Marc Wysocki from the Sheffield Volunteer Fire Department, with us today to kind of just have our discussions as we normally do on leadership in the fire service and some other things. So in 2025, Darley came out with their essay competition, which, just to put the little plug in, get ready for their 2026 announcement early next year. Understanding the why behind mental health challenges in the fire service. And this is an area that Carrie and I have discussed a lot of, and we always enjoy the conversation and get new insights and new looks at things, because I think the important aspect of when we talk about mental health, I think it's just keeping a conversation going a lot of the times and just hearing different insights and different stories. And a lot of times it comes down to the vulnerabilities as us as individuals to get others to kind of speak up. And so articles like this and putting yourself out there and get more information out there, I think is totally beneficial. And I think it just helps in so many ways. So I'm excited to get into conversation and discuss a little bit about the mental health challenges in the fire service. And Mark's essay was titled Behind the Mask, Uncovering the Root Causes of Mental Health Challenges in the Fire Service. So before we get going to the essay and the conversation, Mark, welcome to the HE Leadership Podcast. We are very grateful to have you with us today. And just if you wouldn't mind, just a little introduction about who you are, where you're at, and anything else you want to add.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to this. As you can see, I'm a volunteer firefighter. So my main job is the head athletic trainer here at Berkshire School in Sheffield, Mass, which is the southwest corner of Massachusetts, right near the borders of New York and Connecticut. So a co-ed boarding school, about 400 students. So for people who don't know what an athletic trainer is, I'm a healthcare professional who evaluates, treats, and rehabs our injured athletes, anything from sprained ankle to post ACL, concussions. But, we're also ready for C-spine injuries, broken bones, CPR, et cetera, just like that. So I'm in my 25th year here at Berkshire School. I've had other experiences in colleges, universities, minor league ice hockey, clinics as well. And so while I was here, one of our head of schools, which is like a principal, he was really into community service, and that's what inspired me. I first actually joined our ambulance service, which is a private, they're not part of a fire department. So I became an EMT first, and then a few years after joined the fire department because I just really enjoyed the service end of it. And so going into this essay, so I got my master's way back in the 1900s. That's a joke for kids who were born in the 2000s. So back in 1995. But fast forward, it's now 2025, and I'm finishing up my doctoral degree. And this announcement came out about this essay, and I just happened to be in my psych class, and my professor is also very big on mental health for healthcare professionals. So wording and putting research together, that was the easy because I finally got my muscle memory back of just 3 years of just doing research and papers and presentations and such. So getting that together, but putting in my personal experiences and where I should think the fire service should go or hopefully goes is the part I really leapt into with some of the stories that I put in there and talks I've had with other first responders. So it was kind of easy, I meant writing wise for me, just to, get that. I was just a personal side. I had to, put more together. The stats I could spew all day because I can do that blindfolded now, thanks to doing research for the past 3 years. But yeah, I think the biggest part is obviously the title I really thought about, kind of a double meaning, not only behind our physical mass, but, we hide it a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think my biggest thing is we can't treat this as a crisis. I think in the future should just be part of operational readiness. And that our SEAL teams, Delta Force, that's part of their readiness before they do anything. You know, they want to make sure their people are good to go before, something obviously things are going to happen. That's
Yeah.
regardless. But I think it should just be part of leadership. I know it's another thing to add on as being an officer, but I think it's so important in the future to move forward as part of officer training, include mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You're right. It's not a Band-Aid. It shouldn't be a crisis that we're constantly trying to combat on the backside. It's a proactive thing. I totally agree. And I was a judge this year, and I've been a judge the past few years. And this topic, it was interesting to read because there's a lot of folks that you can tell, have an interest in it, but it was very, a lot of the stuff that you hear across the board in the essays that we've been trying that haven't been working, right? So this discussion's been around for years now in the fire service, and it's the same solutions that just aren't cutting it. And so you're reading yours, and of course we read them blind. We don't know all identifiers are taken out. So any names of departments, obviously the names of the writers, and then anything else that could identify you is taken out. So we don't know anything about you when you write it, which is good. But reading yours, I was like, yes, this is different. This is some innovation here, and you could definitely tell it was backed by a lot of research, which I appreciated because I need to know the why and is this going to work or not kind of girl. And so I really liked reading your essay. And a lot of the things you say, especially right up front in your essay, are things that Kyle and I talk about. So and we'll get into it more in a bit, but the whole idea that firefighters, that's your identity to some folks. That is literally your whole identity. And if you don't have anything else aside from that, what that will do to you. And Kyle and I have talked about that. We talk about that all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
That's a big
dangers
one.
of that. And so reading it in there, I was like, yes, this is hitting where it should in the essay. So, and I also, I love the fact that it was written by a volunteer, because I feel like the volunteer organizations and volunteer firefighters, mental health is almost more difficult.
Absolutely.
It's more difficult, less recognized, less appreciated. So it really, I started as a volunteer, so it really hit home for me too.
Yeah, there have been plenty of, like I remember one specific multi-fatality that happened early in the morning. And we all, we did everything right. Everything went well, nothing about that. But 5 hours later, I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
And I can't talk
Yeah.
to anyone about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And they just
Yeah.
asked, were you part of the car accident? All I say is yes, I helped them out. And I just saw, I won't go into it, bad stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's happened many times. Like I go back to work or just got done with the fire. Now I got to go sit in a faculty meeting with the teachers, and nothing against them. I mean, just, it's just, it's not like when you're paid, at least you can go back and talk with your team, more than just tactical stuff, sit
Yeah.
around the
And
table and, hopefully decompress in between calls.
yeah, that's a whole different aspect to this. And in the beginning, you talk about the culture of emotional suppression, where you're almost rated or graded on your ability to regulate your emotions. And in your case, and in the case of the volunteer agencies, that's even more so, right? Because you're walking back into a civilian life right after, and Yeah, and it's interesting talking about, like, the emotional regulation and emotional suppression because I think too what happens, and I don't know if you guys think this or not, but, the guys and girls that are tough and have great emotional regulation, and then a lot of times, like, when actually it's appropriate to be emotional, so deaths, personal crisis, personal stuff that's going on, then you can't. It's been shut off for so long that you see this abnormal response to things that actually should evoke emotion, and it's okay to show emotion. It's like, "No, all that's gone.
Yeah.
I don't have that anymore."
So one thing I'm very lucky here in Berkshire County. I mean, the Berkshire County is kind of rural, but we do have a crisis response team. So the dispatches wherever they're out south, north, central, if there's ever a fatality, they alert the crisis team.
And is that solely for the first responders on scene,
No,
or is
no.
it
So
for?
no, the crisis team is post.
Okay,
So if ever there's a fatality, they'll set up within 48 hours, the latest. They'll
I
come
got
to
you.
the ambulance, the fire station, like that accident or a
Mhm.
fatal fire. We'll have a tactical meeting. We'll go around, same circle. No, they'll be quiet because that's not their area. And then, you know, if you want to talk, talk. If not, here's our contact number. Anytime, something hits later, they've been very good about it. I would say you past 5, 6 years, that's been phenomenal. Like all the chiefs just step forward, like we do this, within 48 hours of a fatality, we're having a meeting.
Yeah, that's good. A lot of, sitting here and listening to some of this stuff and just never having the experience. But yeah, that volunteer and then having to go back to work, like that's wild, right? That is just wild in some instances where I just couldn't imagine, even if you're up on, regardless, sometimes it's not even the most traumatic things that we see. It's you're up all night and then have to go do a regular job. Where if we're up all night, sometimes we have the luxury of going home and going to bed, right? Before we go back to work in 2 days. So, yeah, it's a completely different dynamic for sure. And it's interesting is, you hit on a lot of stuff in your paper, but we look and I think it was about 2015 where mental health and like peer support and all this stuff started becoming mainstream in the industry and people started talking about it. But what's really fascinating to me when you look over the last 10 years, it's like has much changed. And just from, regardless of research or anything, but from what I have seen, like actually seen and experienced, the answer to that is no. Firefighters are still killing themselves. Suicide rates are still there. And it's like, Carrie and I talk a lot about this. And when we look at like mental health and wellness, it's so much more than like check boxes and policies and procedures. And it's like, how do we uncover the human behind the badge? And, kind of with that, it's that bridge into that identity fusion and that uniform effect that you spoke so well about, that kind of get into that. And when we look at our industry and whether it's cultural, whether it's tradition, whatever, that identity fusion, I think, is one of the worst things where we start putting our identity into a job because Carrie and I, we feel that each person is so much more than a job. You're so much more than a job title. But when we put everything into that and it becomes who we are, man, that could have some horrible effects on you as a person and through the years. And one thing I work with our young guys now, they're are getting engaged, they're getting ready to start families and just having conversations with them like yes, you could be proud to do this job. It's an honorable job, absolutely, but like you're going to be a dad, you're going to be a husband. Like that's it. You want to be a dad. Like focus there. Those are titles, that you're going to become. You don't have to become this. You could be proud of it and do the job. So
Um,
I think it's one of those that's like for me, like right now over the last year and what Carrie and I have been talking about, it's like it's that identity is so I just wish you could be like, no, don't do it. you know?
yeah, I mean, like in our department, I learned it from someone who's been around years. He goes, top three things: family, job, and then this department. I mean, and that was from one of the old timers too.
Wow.
So that was great when I first started. So you
I
don't
would
feel
say
like,
that's
oh,
unheard of.
yeah,
Out here when I started, it was like job. Why do you want to go home? Why do you want to have kids? Like why, you need to breathe, eat, and drink this job 24/7. That's like the world and it's in some ways it's still that way.
yeah, definitely. I think that's just more, the volunteer. I mean, plus, we're obviously you got to focus more on retention
Yeah.
but just like paid culture. So I think the two top things is me as an officer is one, what I learned from day one as a firefighter, you're teaching the person behind you. You're teaching the future. You just always have to remember that no matter what, because they're going to be behind you or they're going to be right in front of you holding the nozzle, you know, protecting you so you can get back on the truck and go home. And I see other departments where the officers don't talk to the probies.
Yeah.
Like, that's awful. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And for, especially volunteer is we come from all different backgrounds. I'm in healthcare. We have electricians and farmers and carpenters. Like we lean in, like, we're going to use your services. Like, what ideas do you have
Mhm.
Yeah.
right away? We want from day one, when you walk in, what ideas do you have? You know, we want to hear it. You're not just going to, you know, stand there and not be seen. I think that's a huge part of the retention culture that we work on at my place.
That's good. Yeah, and I've heard time and time again people say the words family and family first, and then like turn around and do the exact opposite. I'm like, well, don't say those words if that's not actually how you're gonna live in the service. So I've heard lots of folks around us use that. Say, oh no, we believe that family is first. But as soon as somebody has to call in sick because they got a sick kid, it's like, oh no, they're not. I'm like, wait a minute, you just said family was first. And
Yeah, it's like if family's first one, it's convenient for everybody,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Fits
It's
everyone else's
yeah,
schedule.
yeah,
yes,
right. Then
yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, what did I wanted to hit on when we look at the identity fusion emerging of personal and professional identities, uh, more complete than in most other professions, and it creates these unique vulnerabilities. You want to speak to some of those unique vulnerabilities? I think I just want you to come out and say because you wrote it, and I think the unique vulnerabilities is that it's like ding, 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 like it's so true. Because a lot, I think you brought up a great argument. Like, are we different than any other profession out there? And I think this is here it is, the unique vulnerabilities with this identity fusion. And I think you spoke about it so well.
Yeah. I think it's, they want a superhero every time or superhuman person. And like you're getting a human that's, trained in this, unfortunately, to see everyone's bad day every day, you know, and there's only so much we can take, our resilience. And I think that's, a big part that, obviously you call 911. I didn't even know what the small percentage is in your lifetime. Maybe it's under 1%, but, we're seeing that 1% every day and they're expecting, that superhuman, you know, person who's also needs to be an Olympian and neuroscientist, rocket scientist at the same time to figure it out right then and there in front of their loved ones or the building that's caught on fire, the car's upside down. We're all human. They may not realize that when they see the trucks and the ambulances and police cars, but there is someone underneath all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so true. We've become, who everyone calls for everything nowadays. It's I can install a car seat and a smoke alarm and a carbon monoxide alarm, and I can surgically crike you and intubate you and give whole blood and then put a fire out and a gas leak and know the properties of propane. It's like what? Like, it's just crazy. It's crazy the things that we are supposed to know. And
Well, yeah,
remember.
Mark, you kind of said something in your paper on that. To quote you, a 15-year veteran recently confided, "I signed up to fight fires, but now we're social workers, substance abuse counselors, mental health first responders, all without adequate training." That is, yeah, ding, right? Like that's so true. And
Yes.
the mission distinguishes firefighting from other emergency service that maintain more consistent role definitions over time. And you just spoke about how the changing nature of emergency response. And Carrie and I talked, this may be way when we started, like, is our branding, when we look at our organization and we call ourselves the fire department, is that harming us? Are we holding on to tradition? Do we need to do some rebranding as a profession to, you know, let people know if you want this job, what you're really getting into. B, let the public know what it is we actually do. All encompassing of the things we do. And so it's just this, yeah, a lot of young guys, yeah, I want to go charge into fires. And then they get there and, you're running EMS calls 90% of the time. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we've
Yeah, I
tried
think
really hard at that too to let people know that are coming in so they don't have this like letdown of, oh, well, I thought this was going to be different.
yeah, I think not only I mean at the top with leadership, but I think starting to ingrain stuff in the fire service academies
Yeah.
that, 10% of your calls is going to be fire.
Yeah.
If it's not, including smoke alarms and COs on
Hmm.
top of that, actually fire, like you need to be ready for medical and more, you know, social skills too, just sitting down with someone who, I just sat with someone, unfortunately, my partners are pumping on their partner's chest, you know, just to keep them calm. So that person's not on top of us or, doing that stuff that, you don't read about in books, you just unfortunately learn it on the spot, which,
Yeah.
part safety, but also, part social worker at the same time when you have things like that.
Yeah, and one of the parts of your essay that really hit home for me along those lines is you talked about the heroic narrative, so comparative suffering where others have it worse. And we have a peer team and I've been a part of that for a while and I've heard so many people that really should be in counseling, like a regular counseling say, "Well, I don't deserve to go cuz I haven't had it as bad as someone else." And so they won't reach out and they won't seek help because they haven't seen something bad enough or they haven't experienced something bad enough or their symptoms or their suffering isn't as bad as someone else's. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like you don't need to level up. You don't need to keep score. We all deserve to get help and to be healthy. And like you said in the beginning, it's 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 holistic health. It's not just treating it, fixing it, and going back. It's like regular physicals. It's like regular exercise. It's all part of the whole being, which I love that you brought that up because I think others need to hear that if you're out there in listener land. Like it's not a comparative, it's not check boxes or tick marks of how much you've accumulated before you can start acknowledging this or get help.
Yeah, exactly. Like you may not have seen the awful one that the salty paramedic or older firefighters have seen, but you're seeing hundreds of calls, just build up. Like I said, right in almost my first paragraph, how the paramedic just snapped. Nothing went wrong. That was the final straw. It just, something in him triggered and, it could be just 1,000 little things piling on,
Yeah.
not that one big traumatic. But yeah, you're right. Everyone needs that checkup.
Yeah, the cumulative effect of, being surrounded by it and seeing the worst things all the time. Yeah, it all adds up. Really.
Yeah. When we look at, like, to kind of, I think our industry has done a good job of identifying the what's going on. It's the how do we fix this, and from a leadership standpoint, and moving forward and seeing over the last 10 years, not much has changed. Sure, we have created awareness. I'm sure there's more men and women out there in our industry that are seeking professional counseling, right? Whether even if it's a minute number, I'm sure there's more now than there were 10 years ago. So yeah, those could all be positive steps. And I know you mentioned bringing it into the fire academy, and teaching, but like, and a lot of these things, I'm not saying you're right or wrong or anything. Just discussion. Like, it's like sometimes you just want that rock solid answer. Like, do this, we will fix it. It'll fix it. And I think this is so much more complex than that. If we really want to fix some of these issues, yeah. And I agree. It's getting in the academies, and the effort has to be on the people coming on the job today. Because the 10, 15, 20-year person who's been on the job, they're tough people to, want to change or be, they're so ingrained in tradition and culture that sometimes it's like return on investment. Not that we're going to let them go to the wayside, but we just know the challenge there. And usually it's beyond the help of a peer to peer where they already need professional help. But if we could get in at the beginning, right at the start, explain what the job is. And I think a lot of times when we look at our profession, when we look at the military, police, EMS, nursing, I think a lot of people go into those jobs and uh, I think a lot of them come from some type of broken background, damaged background, and so what's the process to kind of unfold that, and it's just very interesting. This is one of those topics that is just always has my wheels spinning. Like it's the how. Yeah, get in the academies, get to the young guys. Sometimes the older cultural tradition, they stump that growth that we're trying to do, right? Because it's not traditional, it's not cultural. So it's almost like drawing that line in the sand somewhere and focus here versus there. I don't know.
Yeah, like when I was writing the essay and thinking about, having the officers have a class, I could
Yeah.
literally feel the
Right.
moans when I was speaking
Right.
from
Totally.
the old guard. Like,
Yeah.
oh, great, another class,
Yeah.
you know. But I like just diverting just for a second. But like when came a lieutenant, like there's the right seat. There's no training. Like, get in,
Yeah.
go. You earned your bugle, but there's no like, okay. There's just there's that gap.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And if
Yeah,
you
there's
mess
been
up, we're gonna blame you,
Yeah,
even
because
though
you're
we
the
didn't
officer
train you.
now. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we did good for so long in the fire service of um this is probably a lot of public safety careers because we have listeners from a lot of different industries here, and the technical parts of our job we provide you training on, right? And so you might do command simulations before you ride the right seat, or you know administrative paperwork stuff, but we didn't give you a lot of soft skills training in the past. And Kyle and I's mission is to change that. Is a lot more soft skills training. And your essay hints at this too, that leadership and safety, feeling safe in your space by a strong leader is so important for mental health. Because if you don't feel safe, and I'm not talking just about like physically being safe, but like in a safe culture, and you feel supported and empowered and all those things in the space that you're performing, is so important for mental health. It's just like if you don't feel safe to express yourself, or you don't feel safe in performance, or you feel like you're going to yelled at, or you're whatever it is, that's when all of that doubt creeps in and you lose confidence, and then that is just a spiral of all the wrong things. So
And
leadership,
that's what I was
leadership,
leading
leadership.
back into operational performance. Like, you feel, you can't talk, or you're getting bullied, or just getting, oh, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. Then you go out on a call and you get yourself hurt, or someone on your crew. It's just a nasty spiral.
Yeah, I
It's
think in a lot
hard.
of ways we are heading in the right direction with some of this stuff, especially like cultures like that. Um, But yeah, there's still just so much work to be done. This is going to be a constant in so many things and in so many ways. Carrie and I talk a lot too about like the younger people coming in, and for me, I can speak for me, and I think Carrie agrees. Like they're different. Yeah, and I think it is such an opportunity that they're willing to listen to all this stuff. They're not going to push it aside, and they want to know. And I think a lot of them are very purpose driven. They want to have the sense of identity of who they are beyond a job. So it's like there's, yeah, and I'm sure this is like this all the time, right? The two polar opposite generations within a industry right now, and that's across everywhere, and it's always that way. But it is so different. Like it is so different between the older folks in the industry versus young people coming in today. But I think it's such an opportunity to really, like I said, draw that line and really start to shift a culture by focusing on the future of the fire service and really taking the lessons that we've learned, the things that we see in our culture, and the traditions that we see that are continually failing. Absolutely, there are some that are working that need to stay, but some that are failing, and really start making a push to really help out the mental wellness of the future of this industry.
Yeah, I think well, one thing I've learned from the younger firefighters, and also I'm going to just add in my brother here. He served 32 years in the Navy, naval officer. But one thing he told me, like when I just earned my bugle, because I just was looking for just officer, you know, tidbits to take away,
Yeah,
regardless. And he goes, Mark, tell him why,
yeah,
plain and simple. And that's what this generation wants. Why? But that's good though. I mean, it helps transparency. Obviously, there's sometimes it's just like we need to do this.
yeah.
There's sometimes
Right.
I'll talk to you later, but let's go do this now. But most of the time, like why? So they can see the bigger picture or where we're aiming, and so they can, it'll help follow and retention and the buy-in.
Yeah,
So I thought that was a great piece of advice my brother gave me, and I'm just seeing it more from this generation is why are we doing this?
yeah,
But it also helps me, like, I gotta, not just because I said so, but, explain our goals and
mhm.
what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah. Say it louder for those in the back.
Tell them
We
why.
went
Be
yeah, we went
transparent
through
when
we
you
went through
have to and can.
yeah, oh yeah. We went through a thing in our department, and we were trying to figure out kind of the vision of the department, and a lot of the kind of younger company officers were saying, "Hey chief," they're talking to our fire chief, "You just tell us what you want us to do and we'll just do it." And he was like, "You say that, but you don't mean it." And they're like, "No, no, no. Just if you just tell us what you want, we'll just do it." And he was like, "Okay, I'm going to give you an example." And so the hot topic right then was like kind of source pumping and hydrant assist valves. And there was kind of some differing opinions on how we were going to do water supply. And he's like, "Okay." And he purposely picked the opposite of what he knew this company officer preferred for water supply. He's like, "All right, this is what we're going to go with." And he was like, "No, no, why would you do that?" And he was like, "See, you don't want me to just tell you. I need to tell you the why. We need to have these discussions and include people in the decision making, and then and the why of why we're going certain ways." And so, yes, you are 100% right, and your brother. Yep. Yep. All right. Well, and for our listeners that aren't in the fire service, we talked a lot today about in you know in the fire service, but this applies mental health stuff right now in every industry, especially post COVID. I think has been such a struggle, and we have some teachers and school administration folks that listen, and I want to speak to you guys too, because I've seen it from so many of my friends that are that work for the school system, and post COVID, what you're dealing with, behavior stuff in schools right now, and standards of learning and stuff. So for you guys too, um, this stuff hits home too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome. You got anything else for us, Mark? I mean, this has been a great conversation, and this is really one of those hot topics that I think is going to be around for a long, long time. And I think it's the more we have these with people we don't know, I think brings more things to light of how we can, collectively work together to move in a progressive manner in terms of mental health within our industry.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you for having me. I'm glad I could, come on here and share my experiences. I just want to keep doing this, especially, I like that title behind the mask because I really think that hits everyone.
Yeah.
Um, where you teacher, EMS, police, fire, whatever, everyone's got that mask they put on and go to work, and then they come home and or, they're still on the job and, it's getting worse behind that mask. So
So
I'm
true.
looking forward to continuing these conversations.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. I love when we can have a guest on and it's not just Kyle and I running our mouths the whole time. It's just so nice.
Thanks,
So we
Carrie.
greatly
What, you're saying
appreciate
I get
you.
boring, huh? I'm
No,
kidding.
no,
I'm
it's just this
kidding.
is nice.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the HC Leadership Podcast in 2025. Now, for all our listeners, if you haven't gotten your tickets and your flights down to San Marcos, right? Right,
Yes,
Carrie? Yeah,
San
Texas.
Marcos. Yeah. Uh-huh.
For the Teaks Leadership Symposium, January 11th through 14th. Make sure you get those. You'll see us there. We'll be podcasting every day, doing the command chat on Wednesday. So we're very excited. There's going to be a bunch of great speakers. The hospitality down there is amazing. I highly recommend that you go to this leadership symposium. You'll see some great speakers. Mostly everybody from Darley will be down there. Winners. I know, Mark, you can't make it this year, but next year we're going to hold you to that because we want to see you down there. So it's just a good time, exciting. Kerry and I got to get some prep stuff done over the next few weeks. So I think the next time you'll hear from us will be hopefully this year from warm Texas, not snowy Texas like last year.
That's right. It did. It snowed in Frisco while we were there in
Yeah. Yeah.
Texas.
That
Yep.
was wild.
Mhm.
To close out 2025, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Just get subscribed on our socials. We're going to start up our YouTube stuff and all that, and we will see you in Texas.